I have watched all of Phineas and Ferb, so I can answer one of the biggest mysteries from the show. Today, I'll explain the entire story behind Phineas's dad and Ferb's mom. Starting with the one we know and love, Linda Flynn Fletcher. Before she was the mom dealing with Candace's daily busting attempts and blissfully unaware of the roller coaster in her backyard, she was just Linda Flynn. Growing up, her parents were Betty Jo and Clyde Flynn. We don't know a ton about her early years, but we get glimpses. As a toddler, she rocked the same orange-red, voluminous hairstyle she has today, which is a little funny when you think about it. The show implies her hairstyle was modeled after Bobby Fabulous, but he didn't become a famous hairdresser until the 90s? So that's one of those little cartoon logic things we just have to accept. In the 1970s, during her college years, she was right in style with the times, sporting long hair and bell-bottoms. She seemed popular, a typical American girl finding her way. Then came the 80s, a truly wild decade for Linda. Sometime in this era, she went on a date, a single, solitary date with a young, aspiring evil scientist named Heinz Doofenshmirtz. The date was, to put it mildly, a complete disaster. Heinz was already deep into his cheap, evil-in-training ways. He tried to sneak her into a drive-in movie for free by stuffing her in the trunk of his car, and then had the nerve to make her pay for half of his ticket. It was on this date that Linda mentioned her dream of becoming a pop star. Heinz scoffed at the idea, claiming he'd rule the entire world before she ever became a famous singer. In a moment that would become hilariously prophetic, Linda suggested he set his sights a little lower, maybe just the tri-state area. Of course, we all know what happened next. Linda became a pop star, and Doofenshmirtz is still to this day struggling to take over that very same tri-state area. The irony is not lost on him. It was her decade to shine, though perhaps shine is too strong a word for a flash in the pan. This was the era of Lindana. Signed to Huge O Records, she released her smash hit, I'm Lindana and I Wanna Have Fun. The song was everything the 80s loved. Catchy, upbeat, and with lyrics that were delightfully meaningless. It was pure, unadulterated fun, and it shot up the charts. For a brief, shining moment, Lindana was a household name. She had the album, the music video, the whole package. The album art for her single was a masterpiece of the era's aesthetic, a green bow with purple dots in her hair, golden hoop earrings, a dark pink midriff t-shirt, a blue coat, and a white belt with a buckle that boldly proclaimed toy. She even had the classic diva tantrums that came with fame, which eventually led to Huge O Records dropping her from their label. Just as quickly as she rose, she fell. The song faded from the radio, becoming the kind of tune you'd only hear as elevator music. And with that, Linda hung up her pop star persona and quit the business. For a while, anyway. Years later, there would be reunion tours and comeback attempts. She did a multi-artist concert with other 80s one-hit wonders, even performing a duet of her famous song with Candace. There were publicity photos in Monotune magazine and a re-release of her music titled The Essential Lindana, Still Fun, featuring remixes in every language imaginable, from Spanish to Japanese to Pig Latin and even Dog. The show jokes that by the time of the Quantum Boogaloo Future episode, she'd already done 6 comeback tours and was gearing up for a 7th. Optimistically anticipating a free pie she was supposed to get from some union after her 9th. After the initial Lindana craze died down, Linda's life moved into a new phase. Sometime in the 1990s, she entered a relationship with a man who would become the father of her 2 children, Candace and Phineas. This is the first great mystery. We know absolutely nothing about him from the show. Was it a marriage? A long-term partnership? We don't know. All we know is that it ended, and Linda became a single mother, raising Candace and a very young Phineas on her own for a few years. During this time, she even went through a grunge phase, fitting for the 90s. Then her life changed. She met a kind, slightly bumbling Englishman named Lawrence Fletcher. In the present day of the show, Linda runs an antique business with Lawrence, plays in a freeform jazz band with other neighborhood moms, moms, including Isabella's mom and Jeremy's mom, and deals with the daily chaos of her family. A huge part of her character is her complete obliviousness to Phineas and Ferb's gigantic reality-bending inventions. Candace spends every single day trying to bust her brothers, dragging Linda home to see the roller coaster or the time machine or the giant robot, only for the invention to mysteriously disappear moments before Linda lays eyes on it. Linda's catchphrase might as well be, "I don't see anything." She's not mean about it, she's just genuinely concerned for Candace's sanity, often suggesting she just relax. She's a loving, supportive mother, even if she thinks her daughter is a little crazy. She has her own quirks, of course. She's surprisingly good at bowling, she has a secret background in astrophysics, and she still has a bit of that Lindana star power in her, performing at reunions and even doing a duet with Candace. She is, in many ways, the calm center of the storm, the anchor of the family, even if she has absolutely no idea that a storm of incredible inventions is raging in her backyard every single day. She is the quintessential Disney mom, unflappable, loving, and blissfully unaware. Now let's turn our attention to Lawrence. His story begins across the pond in England. He's the son of Reginald and Winifred Fletcher. His father, Reginald, was a daredevil in his youth, and it's from him that Ferb eventually inherited his signature green hair, a trait that skipped a generation with Lawrence's own brown hair. Lawrence grew up with a classic English accent and a collection of odd British sayings. He's intelligent, but in a very absent-minded, gentle way. He loves history and antiques, a passion that would become his career. He's also terrible at puzzles, a running gag throughout the series. We know he has a brother named Adrian, which makes Adrian's kids Eliza and 5 unnamed nephews, his nieces and nephews. He also has family in Scotland, an uncle named Angus and Mara. His family tree gets even more bizarre when you learn his great uncle times 9 was named Ferbgore. Like Linda, Lawrence had a life before they met. He went to college with a friend named Ignatius Eukaremu, who gave him the unfortunate nickname Harry Larry. Lawrence claims there are no photographs of him that exist from the years 1976 to 1979, a mysterious blank spot in his personal history that he never elaborates on. In his younger years, Lawrence was an avid fisherman. He tells his sons long, rambling stories about his fishing exploits, the most famous of which is the tale of how he caught the legendary Big Mouth Ramon. He starts on a chilly April morning in 1980 with disco on its way out, and somehow adds in things about going up a fire escape, losing his pants, helping John Lennon write All You Need Is Love. He apparently suggested changing the lyric from All You Need Is a Phillips head screwdriver, going through a petting zoo, and being 4 hours from the nearest dental supply store. By the time he finishes, he's usually crashed his boat or caused some other minor chaos, completely oblivious to the fact that Phineas and Ferb have long since left to have their own adventure. Even though these stories are probably way too dramatic, they give you an idea of this man's interesting past. Just like Linda, Lawrence also had a previous relationship that resulted in a child. He became the father of a green-haired boy named Ferb. The identity of Ferb's biological mother is the second great mystery of the show. We don't know if Lawrence was married to her, how their relationship ended, or why she's no longer in Ferb's life. She is a complete unknown. At some point, Lawrence, as a single father, moved with his son, Ferb, from the United Kingdom to Danville in the United States, and that's where he met Linda Flynn. Their love story is one of the sweetest parts of the show. Lawrence was initially very nervous around Linda, barely able to even hold her hand. He manages to get tickets to the farewell concert of Linda's favorite band, Love Handel. During the show, the band's lead singer, Danny, shone his flaming hot spotlight of love on the couple. Seizing the moment, Lawrence pulled Linda into a passionate kiss. It was a movie-perfect moment that solidified their relationship. They fell in love, bonding over things like Linda's amusement at Lawrence's habit of using outdated historical references in everyday conversation. On June 15th, they got married, officially blending their two families. Lawrence became the stepfather to Candace and Phineas, and Linda became the stepmother to Ferb. They bought a house on Maple Drive and created the Flynn-Fletcher household we know today. His personality is the complete opposite of Linda when it comes to the boys' inventions. While Linda never sees them, Lawrence sees them all the time, and he doesn't just see them, he loves them. He thinks his son's contraptions are brilliant. He actively encourages their creativity. When they built built a giant monster truck arena in the backyard to help Candace learn to parallel park, he got in a truck and drove it. When they had a magic carpet, he hopped on for a ride. He's often too distracted by his own hobbies or stories to pay full attention, but he's fully aware that his kids are geniuses, and he's totally on board. He's the largest collector of memorabilia for a weird show called Pinhead Pierre, a fact he is sheepishly proud of. He also has a fantastic relationship with all the kids. He's obviously close to his son Ferb, and he adores his stepson Phineas, often calling him Finn. He's just dad to both of them. His bond with Candace is particularly heartwarming. Even though she's his stepdaughter, he treats her exactly like his own. He patiently helped her learn to drive, gave her one of his old cars, and they participated in the annual daddy-daughter picnic together. Candace, in return, loves and respects him completely, always calling him dad. He's just a genuinely good, kind, and supportive father who brings a wonderful, gentle energy to the family. He's imaginative, easygoing, and has this childlike innocence that makes him the perfect father for two boy geniuses. He might not always know what's going on, but his heart is always in the right place. Okay, so we've got Linda, the ex-pop star, and Lawrence, the British antique dealer. They're the parents we see, the ones holding the blended family together. But that just leaves the two biggest questions hanging in the air. Who is Phineas's biological father, and who is Ferb's biological mother? The creators of the show, Dan Povenmire and Swampy Marsh, have been asked this a million times, and their answer is always the same. They've said they never established it and never will, because it's not important to the story they wanted to tell. Their whole point was to show a happy, functional, loving, blended family, because that's a reality for so many people. The family we see on screen is the family. The other parents are just out of the picture, and that's that. But come on, that's not gonna stop us from speculating, right? The internet is filled with theories. So let's dive into the rabbit hole, starting with Phineas and Candace's dad. For years, the most popular theory by far was that it was none other than Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. The evidence seemed compelling at first glance. We know for a fact that Heinz and Linda went on that one date. Doofenshmirtz has a vaguely triangle-shaped head, sort of like Phineas. Phineas has a love for inventing, just like Doof. It seems to line up. However, this theory has been thoroughly and completely debunked, not just by the creators, but by the show's own internal logic. Let's break down why it's impossible. The main piece of evidence against it is the timeline. In the episode, What Do It Do?, we see the flashback to Linda and Heinz's date. The radio announcer mentions a new one from Zanzibar, a song that was released in 1982. We also know from several episodes that Doofenshmirtz is 47 years old during the summer the show takes place. The show itself is set in 2007, a fact confirmed in Norm Unleashed when a picture shows Doof at the 2007 Love Muffin Pudding review. If the date was in 1982 and Doofenshmirtz and Linda had a child from that encounter, the child would be 25 years old in 2007. Candace is confirmed to be around 15, and Phineas is younger, about 7 or 8. The ages just don't work. But what if they had a relationship later? That's also impossible. In the flashbacks, Heinz explicitly says, "And I never saw her again." We also know that after this date, Heinz went on to meet and marry his ex-wife Charlene, with whom he had his daughter Vanessa. Vanessa is 16, a year older than Candace. This means Heinz was married to Charlene before Candace was ever born, making it impossible for him to have been with Linda at the time. Plus, in the episode Ladies and Gentlemen Meet Max Modem, Linda tells Candace that her career as Lindana was long before you were born, and during the flashback to the date, Heinz says, oddly enough, she did become a pop star later. This confirms the date happened before her pop career, which in turn happened before Candace was born. The timeline is airtight. Doofenshmirtz is not the father. On top of that, whenever Linda and Heinz cross paths in the present day, she doesn't remember him at all. In This Is Your Backstory, Doof complains, "She didn't remember you," to which he replies, "Well, that figures we only had the one date." It's a fun theory, but it's just not true. The show even pokes fun at it in the Star Wars special, Phineas and Ferb, Star Wars, where Phineas and Candace's characters are stand-ins for Luke and Leia. And Doofenshmirtz is the Darth Vader character, while Vader is Luke and Leia's father, father, the show uses this as a meta joke rather than a confirmation. So, if it's not Doofenshmirtz, who is it? This is where we enter pure speculation, and it's a lot of fun. We have to work backward from the clues we have. Phineas and Candace themselves. The most striking physical feature is Phineas's head. It's a perfect, pointy triangle. Since Linda doesn't have a triangle head, it's a safe bet this trait came from his father. So we can imagine a man with the exact same head shape as Phineas. Maybe he had a beard or a square chin to differentiate him, but the core structure was there. He likely had red hair like Candace and blue eyes like Phineas, traits passed down from both him and Linda. What about his personality and occupation? One popular idea is that he was an architect or an engineer. This would explain Phineas's incredible talent for building and construction. Phineas doesn't just slap things together. He works from blueprints. He has clear schematics, and his vision is always precise. He can conceptualize and execute a massive project in a single day. This kind of genius-level engineering skill had to come from somewhere. Perhaps his father was a brilliant architect who left blueprints and tools lying around the house when Phineas was a toddler, kind of setting the stage early for the little inventor he'd grow up to be. Another theory leans into the personality traits we see in Candace and occasionally in Phineas. Candace is impulsive, abrasive, and easily angered. She has a quick temper. Linda is more laid back, but has a very blunt, sassy side, always ready with a witty roast. Even Phineas, who is overwhelmingly optimistic and kind, has shown rare flashes of anger, especially in early drafts of the show. This has led some to speculate that Phineas's father had anger issues. Perhaps his relationship with Linda was volatile, full of arguments and bickering. This constant conflict could have led to their separation, with either Linda leaving him or him splitting from the family. This theory also provides a rather dark but compelling explanation for Candace's obsession with busting her brothers and her constant need for control and validation from her mother. It could be a learned behavior from a chaotic childhood. There's also a theory connected to Candace's obsession with Ducky Momo. In a flashback song, we see a young Candace looking sad while presumably her parents are fighting off screen. She turns on the TV and sees Ducky Momo, who provides the comfort and affection she craves. Later, she's given a Ducky Momo doll. We only see the arms of the person giving it to her. The theory suggests this was her biological father giving her the doll as a parting gift or a rare moment of affection, forming it in her mind as the one good memory she has of him. This would explain why the show and the doll are so deeply important to her. A simpler theory is that he was a musician, perhaps someone Linda met during her Lindana days. This would explain the family's shared musical talent. Both Candace and Phineas are shown to be exceptional singers, and the show is famous for its musical numbers. Maybe he was a songwriter or a producer who worked with her. Their shared creative passions could have brought them together, but the pressures of the music industry or creative differences could have just as easily torn them apart. Some fans have even playfully suggested he might be voiced by Danny Jacob, the show's composer who sings many of the songs, as a meta nod to his musical influence on the family. Another interesting tidbit is that both Candace and Phineas are names of Greek origin. This has led to the idea that their father might have been Greek, a man who valued history and culture. Now, for our second mystery, who is Ferb's biological mother? This is an even blanker slate than Phineas's father. All we have to go on is Ferb himself. The first question is always the green hair. For a long time, this was a major point of speculation. Where did it come from if Lawrence has brown hair? Dan Povenmire eventually gave us the canon answer. It came from Ferb's paternal grandfather, Reginald Fletcher, who had green hair in his youth. It's a simple genetic explanation, but that doesn't tell us anything about his mother. So let's look at Ferb's personality. He's a man of a few words, but when he does speak, it's usually something incredibly insightful, witty, or profound. He is wise beyond his years. He's also a man of action, a brilliant engineer who can build anything alongside Phineas. He's a jack of all trades, skilled in music, dancing, and various other talents. His father Lawrence is kind and has many hobbies, but he doesn't have Ferb's quiet intensity or almost supernatural competence. This suggests these traits might have come from his mother. One of the most compelling theories, and the one I kind of agree with, is that she was a free spirit, a rebel, a true jack of all trades. who was brilliant and talented, but just couldn't be tied down to any one thing. Not a job, not a house, and maybe not even a family. This theory suggests that she and Lawrence had Ferb, but her wanderlust was too strong. She had to see the world, to experience everything, and so she left Lawrence to raise their son. It's a sad story, but it explains so much about Ferb. He could have inherited her wide range of talents and her quiet, observant nature. This theory also has a little neat connection to Ferb's crush on Vanessa Doofenshmirtz. Vanessa is a bit of a rebel herself, a little bit punk, a little bit goth. Maybe Ferb is subconsciously drawn to her because he sees a reflection of the mother he never knew. He recognizes that rebellious free spirit and is drawn to it. Another theory leaning into the show's more outlandish elements is that his mother was an alien. This sounds crazy, but there's some fun, albeit flimsy, evidence. In one episode, Lawrence sings a song called Alien Heart, which could be interpreted as a song about his lost love. Ferb has some odd traits: his uniquely shaped eyes, his advanced understanding of technology. In one fantasy sequence, he's depicted with a very strange, almost alien-like appearance. He's also shown to be able to speak Martian and communicate with Perry the Platypus on a level that Phineas can't. This is mostly played for laughs, but it's fun to imagine that Ferb is a half-human, half-alien hybrid, which would explain his extraordinary abilities and his slightly detached, observant perspective on the world. A more grounded theory suggests that his mother might have been French. This comes from the fact that Ferb is shown celebrating Bastille Day and speaks fluent French in the episode Runaway Runway. It's a simple explanation for his cultural knowledge and linguistic skills. Perhaps she was a French artist or academic who met Lawrence in England or America. Then there's the simplest, saddest theory. She passed away. Maybe she died when Ferb was very young, which is why she's never mentioned. It's a tragic but realistic possibility that would explain her complete absence from their life. The show never feels sad, so it's unlikely the creators ever intended this, but as a fan theory, it definitely works as an explanation. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the darkest Phineas and Ferb episodes, click the video on screen.